rustic bread, seasonal vegetables, hearty cookies, hearty whole grain, making hot coffee on a cold autumn morning, decorating cookies, pumpkin spice everything, getting the last of the garden flowers, making fresh sourdough bread, the season of peeling so many squashes, pumpkin and apple picking, pie baking, and making pretty things with your hands. This is all part of creating a restful fall kitchen. So join me today as I take you along and show you what I made for my family of 5 this week. Good morning. It is very early morning and it is chilly, fall, cozy kind of day. We're gonna make some whole grain sourdough sugar cookies. We're having some friends over today and it is actually right before Halloween, so we want to just let the kids do some frosting. It's always fun to kick off the fall and winter season with some sugar cookies. I can't believe it's already sugar cookie season, but here we are. Okay, so we are starting with a 1/4 cup of sourdough starter. You can long ferment this recipe if you want the health benefits of fermentation, or I'm just going to be kind of doing this quickly, so it won't have that, but it will still have the starter in it, which is something. So I'm going to combine my wet ingredients, sourdough starter, sugar, and egg, and butter first. Just realized I have no makeup on for the day. I literally just woke up and came down here because I wanted to make sure these were ready for the party. Vanilla. I love that this recipe uses honey. Lemon is the key to every sugar cookie recipe. Don't let anyone tell you differently. Must have lemon. Sugar. Okay, now for the wheat berries. This is going to be a perfect recipe to use whole grain flour, salt, dough's a little thick, so I'm going to use a spoon to mix it. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up in plastic and let it sit in the fridge. Alright, before I get to frosting those, I'm going to cut up this pumpkin. I've had this pumpkin sitting around for a little while now, and it's about time for me to just make a bunch of pumpkin puree, which I love to do each fall. So I'm gonna throw this in the oven real quick and move on with the rest of the cookie prep. I have a new cookie recipe that uses fresh pumpkin and chocolate chips, and I will show you that recipe soon, but first I need to get the pumpkin puree. Isn't that so pretty? This is my first pumpkin of the season. Perfect for the compost pile. I'll be putting this in my mill food grinder today, which I will tell you more about in a bit. I always find that adding a little bit of salt to the pumpkin gives it a nice flavor. Do about 1/2 cup increments of the pumpkin puree into these little bags. I think that's about how much I use at a time in a recipe. I will say that it does help to add olive oil to your pumpkin when you are roasting it, which is what I did here, because then when you go to puree it, it comes together really nicely. Sometimes pumpkin can be a little bit thick, stringy, or kind of chalky, so if you have olive oil to drizzle on there when you're roasting it, that will help it become really easy for you to then use in a recipe. taking a quick break to talk about something that is super exciting to me. I believe that if we all try to reduce and reuse our food and actually put it back into our environment and our soil instead of just putting it in the landfill, we would be far better off. And that is why I'm so excited to introduce to you today's video sponsor, Mill. The Mill is a food grinder that takes all of your food scraps from avocado pits to chicken bones, whatever you have left over in your food, and grinds them into a coffee ground-like consistency that can then be used in your garden, compost, or even to help feed your chickens. Mill transforms your uneaten food into nutrient-rich food grounds which have many uses, both at home and in our community. The Mill food grounds are not compost yet. They will become compost when you add a certain amount of them to your existing dirt or soil. They break down faster when added to your compost pile. Think of them as like a really nutrient dense fertilizer. You wouldn't want to put all of it into your soil, but a little bit sprinkled here and there is really nutritious and puts our food back into the food system. You can also even send your food grinds back to the Mill company. If you can't use all of your food grounds at home, you can also get Mill pickups, which is where Mill will redistribute your grounds to small farms. Food grinds are shelf stable, so you can also use these bags to store your grinds for another time. I think that this method of taking our uneaten food and scraps and putting them back into the food system and the environment is so wonderful. I can't even imagine what life would be like if everybody did this. We have so far noticed a huge decrease in our trash. Even though we try not to waste any food, there is always those leftover scraps, avocado pits, skins, banana peels, things that you don't eat, and they really do fill up a lot of room in your trash. And we have noticed a big difference since using this Mill, because every time we eat a meal, we just put everything back into the Mill. You can connect the Mill to your phone, and there's an app, and you can see how many pounds of food you are saving out of waste, and schedule the Mill to run at a time that's convenient for you. So every night we have our Mill run, and then when we wake up in the morning, it has turned all of that food into food grinds. We have used our grinds so far in our little homestead backyard, across our grass, in our garden beds, and just all around the dirt to fertilize it so that we can buy minimal amounts of compost and fertilizer next spring. If you are interested in turning your food scraps into resources, I will leave a link and a discount code below that you can use to check out the Mill. Thank you so much to Mill for sponsoring this video.
I'm going myself.
Sometimes I get in my head about YouTube videos because I'm filming a recipe and I want to have the flowers and the pumpkins and the makeup and everything done. But the reality is that I don't always do it that way. And that especially in this season of life that I'm in with a newborn baby, currently I wake up and she still sleeps for about 2 more hours. So I kind of come down here quickly to make breakfast, which is what I'm doing today. And so I'm not gonna spend time on my hair and my makeup and my clothes when I have a chance to get ahead for cooking for the day. So with that said, we need to get breakfast going, and I'm making banana pancakes, one of my favorite recipes. If you're a mom of kids, you know that sometimes your kids' tastes change throughout the years and they like one thing one day and then a different thing the next day. I try to not make a lot of separate meals for my kids. I try to just make everyone kind of eat what we're making as long as everyone mostly likes it. But my daughter has not liked fried eggs in the morning recently, which makes things challenging because that's what we all eat every morning. However, she loves banana pancakes. So what I'm doing to my original recipe, which I have on the blog, I'll link it below, I'm going to be adding an extra egg to that original recipe. So it'll have 3 eggs in the batter. And I'm also adding some pumpkin puree because we have so much pumpkin this time of year that I actually try to put it in like everything I'm making. I'm just putting some pumpkin in, assuming that it would go well. I don't just do this for the camera. I actually truly enjoy having a beautiful kitchen setup. It makes cooking more enjoyable, and I will arrange this for myself regardless of whether or not the camera is on. As you can see behind me, we have 2 large windows right here, and we are redoing this little corner of our kitchen with some new curtains, and all of that should be hopefully shown in my next video, so you can look forward to that. I know I am. We have not upgraded or done any new house projects for a while, and I cannot wait to see how this looks with some really nice curtains. So 2 bananas. This recipe also uses sourdough discard, which is looking so lovely today. This is actually a very active sourdough starter. The recipe calls for 2 eggs, but I'm going to use 3. If you do add pumpkin to your banana pancakes, don't add too much because pumpkin tends to make pancakes very dense and kind of fluffy, but you don't want too much or else it's going to be too dense and fluffy. Then you just add maple syrup, salt, and pumpkin spice. And of course, flour. And I'm going to mix all that up.
Mom, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You want to draw a fairy with a little cup?
In addition to the last of the summer flowers, we are gonna go ahead and pick these tomatoes off this plant because when we get our frost, I know they're not gonna do super well and we don't have a lot of heat coming. So I'm gonna just go ahead and grab all of them, including the green ones, because they can ripen on the counter just fine. Today I'm finishing up a sourdough boule recipe. I may have mentioned this in my last video, but I'm so excited about it that I'm going to mention it again. Basically, the recipe I'm doing now is my sourdough sandwich bread recipe, which has butter in it. And I'm using the same sandwich bread recipe, but I'm making a boule out of it. And this actually happened by mistake, as many great recipes do, by the way. That's happened to me multiple times. There's my really excited toddler who really, really loves whenever I pull the grain out for the grain mill. Anyway, sometimes when I make a mistake or I forget I'm doing something or I forget an ingredient or I add an extra ingredient, sometimes new recipes are born. And that's what happened with this boule recipe. Was it was supposed to be a sandwich loaf, but I accidentally put it in the Dutch oven and it ended up being so good that I'm actually just doing that from now on. So I'll leave the recipe below, but it's 50% whole grain. And tonight I'm making a fall favorite butternut squash soup. It's funny how I only crave this stuff in the fall and winter time. I don't really care to make a butternut squash soup in the summertime, but something about those cold fall days is so nice to have a nice butternut squash soup. So how I'm doing this is I'm gonna peel the butternut squash first and then chop it up, drizzle it with olive oil and salt, and then roast the butternut squash. The benefit of doing it that way is it will roast pretty quickly, and then when you go to blend it with the immersion blender, it comes together really fast. I'm also roasting an onion cut in half, and I just chopped the top off the garlic so that the garlic cloves are exposed, and I'm gonna roast that too. It is an extra step to roast all of these vegetables before just putting them in the soup, but it's a really good one. It adds really good flavor. And then it makes the prep later much easier. So once you could roast this, for example, you could roast this in the morning, let it sit out, and then when you're ready to prepare dinner later that day, you put it all in the Dutch oven and just blend it up with your immersion blender. Of course, I'm adding bone broth as well. And then some of my favorite seasonings for this is just gonna be salt, pepper, dried sage is really good, and then I like to add some cinnamon. It's so yummy. Now with the butternut squash soup, I'm serving up some salmon. We still have fresh wild salmon, so that means not frozen salmon, which you know, if you're a salmon person, you know that that's a delicacy when you can get fresh salmon that has not been frozen, freshly caught. So we are in salmon season right now where we live, so I'm buying this like twice a week, if not more, because it's just, like I said, it's a delicacy and it's going to be gone soon, and we'll be eating cod all winter, which is fine. We like cod, but salmon is better. So this is actually a coho and it's just our favorite.
Wow, what did you say that? It sounds like Nana.
Oh, I just fed her. She's getting tired. Making cookies. Butter. See if I can crack this egg one-handed. Please work. Wow, it's perfect. No shells. I don't know if that's ever happened before. So this was one of those nights that I also realized I don't have any dessert, which I know I sound ridiculous when I say we need to have dessert every night, but we kind of do. So I had to make something quick. I'm gonna go ahead and whip up my whole grain peanut butter chocolate chip cookie recipe here, which is coming to the blog. There's my 2-year-old again, who cannot wait. Whenever the grain mill gets turned on, he has to be the one to do it. My kids are with me a lot when I'm cooking, especially in these videos, because they're with me all the time. And I really can't do anything about that. They love to cook in the kitchen, and I love it that way too. But I always laugh because I try to set everything up and make it all look good for the camera, and they're always kind of there. I normally like to do brown butter for cookies, where you actually brown the butter, but in a rush I go ahead and skip that part. But I do put the dough in the fridge before rolling it out because I find that makes a pretty big difference. I'm rolling out all of these cookie dough balls because I'm going to be putting them in the freezer. We started doing this a while back because it's so much nicer to have a freshly made cookie every single night as opposed to one that's been sitting for a few days. So my husband and I will just pull out 2 dough balls every night and then freshly bake them after the kids go to bed to enjoy before our bedtime. I'll leave links to these recipes in the description below. It is definitely cabbage season, and that is one of my favorites as well. I'm blanking on the name of this cabbage, this variety of cabbage, but it's one of my favorites. I'm gonna just throw it all in a cast iron to saute it down. This is one of my favorite ways to cook cabbage really quickly and easily. My second favorite is probably in a soup, which you've seen me do on this channel before when I make a cabbage and brats soup. But this is just gonna be on the stove. I just put some olive oil on a skillet on medium-high heat and add the cabbage. And then once it starts cooking down, or as it's cooking down, I'll add some butter and then sprinkle with plenty of salt. And here comes my daughter to come help me cook. And as you probably saw, I put another salmon in the oven. So this was a few days later. And again, we are having salmon, and she's gonna help with something here. I can't remember what. So at this time of filming, we were still going out for evening bike rides. That has since kind of slowed down because our daylight is just going away so rapidly, which makes me a little bit sad. But moral of the story is I had to think of a dinner quickly here, and so I cooked up some homemade gnocchi that I had in the freezer. I had made a double batch of gnocchi a few weeks ago and boiled that to go with the salmon, and that was a really good meal as well. Putting all the food scraps in a bowl to go in our mill to make food grinds now. That's a good one. We see some goats and pigs here too.
The giraffe's picking apples.
Wow.
There we go.
Go put them in the basket. Nice.
Oh, good job.
We picked some apples at a local farm and got right away to making pie. This is a whole grain sourdough pie crust. Another recipe I find works great with whole grain is pie, because you can easily sweeten up that pie crust with honey or even sugar if you like. And of course you're gonna have the pie filling on top. So you're not really gonna notice that it's whole grain, but it is. So it's gonna be very sneaky and nutritious. In that clip you just saw, we had to share who was putting the wheat berries in the grain mill. To go with the pie, we decided to make homemade vanilla ice cream. We like to have homemade vanilla ice cream on hand because it's a great dessert for the kids. The kids love it. And it's a really nice way to use up extra milk if you have it. So we got the ice cream mixture going as we are gonna work on chopping up the apples.
It tastes like
Real fairy?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this one's very red. But you do not cut yourself.
Yeah, I have to be really careful too.
Normally when I make apple pie, I will add the apple slices to the stove, and then to that I'll add the sugar mixture with the spices. But I wanted to try a new method today where I make the syrup mixture into like a syrup. So it's got vanilla, honey, cinnamon, spices, some sugar, and some flour to thicken it. So I'm making almost a syrup, and I'm gonna be pouring that syrup over the top of the lattice crust. And so this will help season and flavor the crust, as well as kind of seep into the apples. I'm excited to try this new method, and spoiler alert, I can tell you it was really, really good.
I am putting gold.
Called lattice strips.
Yeah, so then they kind of go crisscross. On top of the pie, we are going to do these little pie cookies, as my daughter calls them. We take the leftover pie crust dough and use these little leaf cutouts to make little leaf cookies to go on top. Now you can't bake these on top of the pie for the whole time the pie is baking because they will cook a lot faster and burn, but you can put them on for the last 10 minutes or so, and they're so cute on top. My kids also like to just eat them plain because they're super cute, and they're just pie crust dough, so they're like a little, a simple cookie. So the ice cream is done now, and this made a perfect fall dessert. So thank you so much for joining me as we cooked some fall recipes in the kitchen this week. If you are wanting to turn all of your food scraps into something you can use for your gardens or chickens, make sure to check out Mill at my link below, or go to mill.com/duvallhomestead for $75 off. I hope you are having a wonderful fall season, and I will see you in the next video.